Ryan Clark blasted Diontae Johnson after the De'Vondre Campbell situation in San Francisco, and the Ravens are being urged to sign a familiar face at wide receiver after his release. All that and more coming up on a bonus episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here on this bonus edition of the show, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe as well. It's the same show, both audio and video, so you're not missing out regardless of how you like to consume our content, watching or listening. We're a 5-day-a-week Ravens podcast, plus more like these bonus episodes. We go live after every single Ravens game, every single piece of big news as well. So if you want daily Ravens coverage, keep it locked on here on Locked On Ravens. Today's bonus edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a bigger turn on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ravens face off against the New York Giants tomorrow. Ravens football back after their bye week. But we have some other talking points to dive into today. The Diontae Johnson situation just will not go away. It seems like, it's finally in the rearview mirror and, everybody's going to move on. And then all of a sudden, you have a situation in San Francisco on Thursday night where De'Vondre Campbell quits on his team. Now everybody's talking about Diontae Johnson again. So Ryan Clark blasted him. We'll talk about his stance on the whole situation in the first part of the show and talk about more so how this affects Baltimore's receiver position moving forward. Then in the second part of the show, speaking of wide receivers, Odell Beckham Jr. is now a free agent, and the Ravens are being urged to reunite with him. We'll talk about that whole situation and if it is actually realistic and if the Ravens should be on that train. Then finally, we'll talk about the Ravens getting more good injury news. A little spoiler for that. They're in a very, very good injury spot, and that got even better on Friday. So let's talk about Ryan Clark blasting Diontae Johnson. He was over on Get Up, and he was talking with Bart Scott and others about the whole situation with De'Vondre Campbell, who, for those who don't know, San Francisco and Los Angeles played on Thursday night. De'Vondre Campbell, San Francisco linebacker, did not want to play in the game. He refused to go in the game. He actually left. He went back to the locker room in the third quarter. And, there was a lot of other situations about this because John Harbaugh was actually getting roasted for his handling of the Diontae Johnson situation after Kyle Shanahan pretty much came out and said, yeah, this is exactly what happened, and here's the situation. Whereas if you remember, when John Harbaugh was asked about Diontae Johnson not playing, he was more so kind of like, yeah, I got to gather all the details and, not going to speak on that right now. So actually a lot of Ravens fans were going in on John Harbaugh for the situation, just based off of how San Francisco handled it versus how Baltimore handled it. But Ryan Clark was talking about how, look, these guys who are quitting on their teams, they should never play again. And, all this stuff about how, you're letting your team down, this, that, and the other, which it becomes a whole different situation when you refuse to play. That does, you let everybody down when that happens, right? But Bart Scott was kind of talking about, I don't want to judge someone in their worst moment, this, that, and the other. And Ryan Clark really wasn't having any of that. And so Bart Scott brought up Diontae Johnson, and he was like, oh, Diontae Johnson should never play again? And Ryan Clark was like, I don't think so. No, why would I want him on my team? It's a good point. It's a really good point. Something that we've talked about for a long time over here on Locked On Ravens, because ever since this whole Diontae Johnson thing happened, and honestly, even before, we've had conversations in the years I've done this show about, guys and being able to show up for your teammates and be there for your team. Diontae Johnson, De'Vondre Campbell did none of that, right? It's letting your team down. And In the game against the Eagles, Baltimore needed another wide receiver. In the 49ers game against the Rams, 49ers lost a couple linebackers due to injury. This is why these guys are being asked to play, right? Getting thrown in. Look, you don't have to be happy with a role. The 49ers got Dre Greenlaw back, and there's no way Dre Greenlaw is not going to play. Like, Dre Greenlaw is going to play over De'Vondre Campbell. I get there are still some problems, at least in Baltimore, with how the Ravens use Diontae Johnson, and I get it, right? I think that the Ravens should be using Diontae Johnson more, getting them more involved, but that doesn't give you an excuse if you're Diontae Johnson, or in the other case, De'Vondre Campbell, to quit on your team. And Ryan Clark's point of why would I want him on my team, we've talked about this too. If you're a rebuilding team, right, you're drafting a young quarterback, or you have a young signal caller, young team needs a veteran leader in the locker room, why would you want Diontae Johnson on your team outside of the whole he's a talented wide receiver thing? Because he's had 3 stops now with 3 different drama issues. And regardless of if he can turn it around over these final 4 weeks in Baltimore in the playoffs, I mean, who knows how that's going to go? Because there was actually a situation that was brought up. I can't remember what year it was. I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But LeGarrette Blount, if you remember LeGarrette Blount, he was cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers because he quit on them in a game. And he got picked up by the New England Patriots, and he won the Super Bowl with them. So there are all these questions about, well, if the 49ers release De'Vondre Campbell, if the Ravens release Diontae Johnson, could those players latch on with contenders that you're going to face in the postseason? So I don't know for everybody involved in this situation. Just speaking Baltimore-wise for Diontae Johnson, look, I think that Diontae Johnson should play over Nelson Aguilar. He probably should be playing over Tylan Wallace too. I think your receiver pecking order should probably be Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Diontae Johnson, Tylan Wallace, Nelson Aguilar. That's probably how it should be, right? But how it's been is Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, combination of Tylan Wallace and Nelson Aguilar, and Diontae was kind of filling into that wide receiver 5 role, which talent-wise, he's better than. And I feel like, to me, yes, sure, if Diontae's unhappy with that, I don't fault him for that. But not entering the game opens up a whole different can of worms. Refusing to go in the game opens up a whole different can of worms. And it's just how, look, 49ers players for the Campbell situation, 2 different approaches for sure. As you hear about, the Ravens receivers talking about how, look, it's not a distraction. Diontae's my guy, this, that, and the other. 49ers players were like, man, he's getting cut soon. That's some crazy stuff. Like, I hope to never be around someone like that again. Like, up and down the board, 49ers players just roasting De'Vondre Campbell. The Baltimore approach has been not really talking about it and just shoving it, I guess, under the rug and pushing it under and not really going into that, not going into details. So, look, I don't think that Ryan Clark is wrong in saying that. Why would you want a guy like that on your team? What message does that send? If you want a veteran leader, why would you want someone who quits on your team like that? Who would maybe quit on a team he's on next? I mean, it doesn't look good for anybody. I've been saying that for the past, it feels like it's been forever, but the past week, 2 weeks this has been going on, where it's like, who does this look good for? It looks terrible for Diontae Johnson. The Ravens now have to deal with this whole blowout situation, and we're still talking about it in different lights and different situations. And so the Ravens went and got Diontae Johnson because they needed a wide receiver. They needed a depth wide receiver. It wasn't their biggest need, but in the case of a Rashad Bateman going down or a Zay Flowers, you felt better with a guy like Diontae Johnson in your receiver room. Well, if he's refusing to go in the game, you're back to square one, and honestly, maybe even you're at a disadvantage compared to where you were a month or 2 ago because the guy is also causing issues. So it's a whole big thing. I don't think we've heard the last of it. I'm sure that, we'll hear from Diontae maybe at his locker over the next couple of weeks as he gets back from his suspension, but certainly not going to be back for this week against the Giants. And coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the Ravens potentially reuniting with a familiar face at wide receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. because they are being urged to do so. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot to get to on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. I love going on Prize Picks, seeing everything they have to offer over there. There's so much, and make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. So if you think James Cook will get more than 60 yards next week, maybe you like Lamar Jackson at more than 1.5 touchdowns, cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. So again, you like Lamar Jackson in the Ravens and Giants game, you like Derrick Henry going for more than what they're projected, be sure to go over on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And the show is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks, mouth-watering desserts, and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. We're back. Our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin IceShaker still here with you on a bonus edition of the show. Appreciate everybody again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button in video form on YouTube. Right now, as I'm recording this, we are about 20 subscribers away from 10,000. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, we've already hit 10,000. 10,000 has been a huge goal for me since day one doing this. And once I hit 10,000, I'm hitting order on the full Dixie Cup outfit pattern for a week, which again, I said I'd do on my very first day of video form. So that's a huge milestone coming up. And in audio form, if you're listening over in audio form, that community's been growing each and every single day. Started that up a couple years before the video. And obviously it's the same show, again, both in audio and video. Now, we have a lot to talk about here in the second part of the show, sticking with the wide receiver theme, but going in a bit of a different direction, because a familiar face was released by the Miami Dolphins in Odell Beckham Jr. And this is going to be interesting because I don't really know what direction this goes. Now, the Ravens, as we talked about in the first part of the show, depending on how the Diontae Johnson situation gets handled or what the next steps are there for the Ravens, they might be in need of another wide receiver. And reports are saying, at least reports from about a week ago, that they are looking at the wide receiver market, and this is an opportunity. Odell obviously played in Baltimore last season. Stats-wise, compared to what he got, I mean, the contract, again, was 1 year, $15 million, went up to $18 million with certain incentives. Obviously, he didn't play like a $15 or $18 million man. He had 35 catches for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I think he was a very positive presence in the locker room, really helped out guys like Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers from a leadership perspective, and he and Lamar got along. I thought that it was a good fit from just a camaraderie perspective and a teammate perspective there, even though, wasn't the big $18 million man on the field. Did make some really clutch, really big catches for the Ravens in some pretty big moments too. Now, the season in Miami for him really didn't go very well. He started off the year on injured reserve. He played 9 games with the Dolphins and had 9 receptions for 55 yards, no touchdowns. This is clearly not the same Odell we saw in New York, and we had that conversation last year when he signed with the Ravens. I don't even know if it's the same Odell that was in Baltimore last season. I know a lot of people are talking about just cut Diontae Johnson, sign Odell, and this whole thing goes away. If the Ravens are planning to not use Diontae again, I'd just suspend him for the season and go out there and, hey, maybe Odell's the guy, right? And you sign him, you give Tylan Wallace even more opportunities, and you kind of factor in Odell and Nelson Aguilar as maybe a platoon for that fourth spot. I know other people have said that Tez Walker, give Tez Walker a shot before Odell. At this point in his career, Odell's not going to be a massive needle-moving move. I think the best benefit he could have is maybe bring stability to a very, or at least more so, drama-filled locker room than he was in last season. It felt like, Baltimore's locker room last year, very tight-knit, not a lot of drama going on, if any whatsoever. And I think a big part of that was because Odell was in there. And for a player that obviously early in his New York career with the Giants was, I think widely regarded as a diva and this, that, and the other, he really turned his career around in that aspect and is widely looked upon as a leader, a veteran leader in a lot of circles. So if Odell is brought in, I'm not expecting him to be the savior of the offense and this amazing depth wide receiver that goes in and, catches 5 balls for 65 yards and a touchdown every game. I don't think that's what it would be. But if anything, it'd just be a guy to get in that locker room, get in that wide receiver room that, with Diontae Johnson does have turmoil, and kind of be that presence. So I'm not opposed to it, but it's not this needle moving move, at least in my opinion, right? I think we can all acknowledge talent wise, Diontae is a better player than Odell, but a lot weighs when you have drama that you bring, or, you induce a drama situation for your team. Sometimes look, the Ravens are a team that doesn't even tolerate that stuff. And I think they're kind of tolerating it more this season because I don't even know if they have a choice to do it or not. Like if they cut Diontae, he's definitely going to latch on with a contender. And there are other wide receiver needy teams. The Steelers have nobody right now. George Pickens is injured, and literally that was the one guy they could not afford to lose in that room. So the Steelers could be an option. Maybe he tries to go to the Chiefs and ring chase over there. Maybe the Bills make a play. I mean, a lot of AFC contenders, I feel like. I mean, even a team like Houston, who lost Stephon Diggs for the season a couple months ago, could that be a landing spot for him? The Rams, who was another one of Odell's former teams, obviously he won a Super Bowl over there with Los Angeles. Could that be an option? But it just feels like the consensus is that for the Ravens, it would be a move that they could make and bring stability to a locker room. And again, is Odell going to be this magic, Odell wipe away all the drama and Odell everything? I maybe wouldn't go that far, but I do think he'd be a positive influence. I think if anything, very minimum, a positive influence. So I'm not really moved one way or the other. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, great. I mean, it's not something to me where I am desperately waiting, refreshing my phone every 5 seconds to see if Odell is a member of the Ravens. I think the Ravens should be interested in at least just trying to assess what's going on. But if he does get brought in by the Ravens, I'm not expecting a big on-field role for Odell. I think, again, it would be more of an off-field locker room situation for them. Coming up, though, in the final part of the show, the Ravens keep getting more good injury news. It's great. So be sure to stay tuned. We have lots to talk about on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, do live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. So for this Ravens and Giants game, the Ravens 16.5-point favorites on FanDuel. So if you like the Ravens as the road favorite, or you like the Giants maybe as the home underdog, be sure to pick your side over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens here. Bonus style. Kevin Ostreicher still talking on this Saturday. Hopefully everybody's enjoying their weekend as we get ready for Ravens football getting back in action tomorrow against the New York Giants. We'll, of course, be back tomorrow morning with a game day episode breaking down everything as you get ready for the game. So be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Plus, after the game, we will be live about 15, max probably 30 minutes after, talking about everything that happened in the Ravens and Giants matchup. Now, in terms of who's available for that game, two very different injury reports for the Ravens and the Giants. I mean, literally, remember the days where the Ravens, and this honestly wasn't even that long ago, funny, or I guess not funny. Well, actually, it really feels like forever ago, but it really wasn't, when the Ravens had those CVS laundry list injury reports and felt like there were 15 guys, 20 guys in every injury report. That's the Giants right now. The Giants, just it feels like their whole entire roster is injured. And for the Ravens, they are in the complete opposite boat. They had perfect practice attendance in the middle of December. In the middle of December. It's incredible. And again, I knock on wood every time. There it is. This team right now, up to this point, because again, I'm not going to jinx the future. I'm saying up to this point, it's been very good injury-wise. Now, hopefully it can stay that way. But from what we've seen, even over the past 2 seasons, or I guess 1 season and some change, all of 2023 and what we've had here of 2024, from season-ending injury perspectives, the Ravens really haven't had to deal with a lot of big-name players going down. And that's huge for this Ravens team. The actual report, you got Rashad Bateman, Kyle Van Noy. They're good to go. No injury designations there. Michael Pierce and TJ Tampa, both who are uninjured reserve. They're questionable. Same with Adisa Isaac and Sanusi Kane. I mean, it's unbelievable. You have everybody practicing in the middle of December. Not that guys aren't banged up. Not that guys aren't feeling the grueling nature of a season here. Because, look, every NFL season you go through is grueling. But to have everybody practicing at this point in the year, I mean, the Ravens deserve this. After what they've been through injury-wise and however far you want to go back, they've had some seriously, brutally injured teams over the course of their franchise history. The fact that we can talk about this team like this late in the season, I'm not taking this for granted, and I'm so happy we can talk about it like that. Now, in terms of Michael Pierce and TJ Tampa, they're going to have until 4 p.m. on Saturday to activate those guys. Obviously, they didn't activate them for the Eagles game. They've now had essentially 2 weeks of rest after getting injured. Now they're going to have, I believe the Ravens probably will be able to activate both of those guys. And now Baltimore has 3 open roster spots on the 53. So it's not necessarily an issue of having to cut a guy or move off of a guy to activate those players. You can just slide them right back in like it's all good. You know, it's a pretty seamless transition. So the thing with injuries now, because now we're in the stretch run, month to go before the playoffs start. If there's like a 6-week or 8-week injury, that essentially either ends your season or puts you right at the Super Bowl. So from here on out, and Baltimore has a really tough stretch, a pretty grueling stretch. A couple other teams have it too, like Pittsburgh, Kansas City, but 3 games in 11 days, from the 15th to the 25th, the Ravens will be playing in 3 football games. So it's about rest, recovery, and making sure that your body is right, because if you get injured now, you know, if you, like, let's say you got injured in September, you had a 7-week recovery time or a 2-month recovery time. All right, you're back in November, right? That's great. But as I just mentioned, 2-month recovery time in December means you're probably out for the season, and maybe there's a slim chance you can come back for the Super Bowl. So at this point, Baltimore cannot afford any injuries. They've been, again, pretty good in the health department up to this point, but it cannot be a thing where now guys start going down. That would be brutal. They have an opportunity with hopefully a statement win against the Giants tomorrow to be able to kickstart something, get the ball rolling on hopefully a strong end to their year into the playoffs. Again, as I've said on Locked On Ravens a bunch here, you split the year into 3 seasons. Before the bye week, after the bye week, in playoffs. And you can even split it into 4 with the Super Bowl. That feels like it's a whole different season as well, with all the media fanfare and everything that goes on during that week, or I guess couple weeks. So Baltimore has a good opportunity here, and they're positioned with their roster to be able to do it. Now, does that mean they will? that remains to be seen. They have to clean up some stuff, as we've talked about. But at the end of the day, Baltimore has a good opportunity, and I hope that they can take advantage of it. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, on the way out, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, turn notifications on in video form and in audio form. Be sure to subscribe, follow along, turn notifications on as well so you don't miss out on any of our content. Coming up tomorrow, right back here with a game day episode bright and early at 6 a.m. And then, of course, after the game, we will be live breaking everything down. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.